Hey, and welcome back to Wild Mythology, the channel where we unravel the mysteries of myth, folklore, and legends. As always, I welcome you to the channel with bread and salt as a symbol of our friendship on the journey we are about to commence. Since Valentine's Day was this week, we're going to talk about some mythical creatures and monsters connected to love, lust, and desire. Enchanting creatures such as the Succubi and Incubi, lustful creatures such as the Encantados and the Popobawa, and even famous love spirits such as Cupid and the Erote. Alright, enough talking. Let's get to the mythical creatures and monsters of love, lust, and desire here on Wild Mythology. A succubus or succubi are female demons that receive sustenance by having sex with men, and an incubus or incubi are the male counterparts of the succubi. According to legend, both types must absorb the life energy of their sexual partner in order to survive. Repetitive visits to the same human will result in a bond forming, allowing the succubus or incubus greater control over the poor human. Another goal of both the succubi and the incubi is to have children with humans, since they cannot have children with each other. In some legends, both species are able to reproduce with humans, while in others, they can't. In the legend where they can't, it's said that a succubus will collect semen from a human man and then give it to an incubus. The incubus will then corrupt the semen and later inject it into a human female. The result will be a cambion child, a child born of a demon and a human. These cambions will either have great power or will be horrifyingly disfigured and wicked. A famous example of a cambion child is the wizard Merlin, whose father was an incubus. As well as being dangerous in person, strong succubus or incubus can invade and manipulate people's dreams. Both types of creature are described as incredibly beautiful with an enchanting allure that draws people in. The most famous succubus is Lilith, the first woman and wife of Adam. Unlike Eve, Lilith was made from the same dust as Adam. When Lilith was told that she was to be Adam's wife, she refused and left Adam to couple with the angel Samael, which resulted in her becoming the mother of succubi. A Lidérc is a fascinating and unique creature from the folklore of Hungary. According to legend, the Lidérc is born from an egg of a black hen kept warm in the armpit of a human or heaping pile of horse manure. When the Lidérc hatches, it is described as a horrifying blackbird-like creature. After it hatches, it will attach itself to the first human it sees. Depending on the sex of the human, the Lidérc will shapeshift into a small human of the opposite sex and set itself on its owner's shoulder. The Lidérc is a symbiotic creature. It attracts gold, therefore making its owner extremely rich. But in return, the Lidérc will demand sex and blood from its owner, which after some time makes the owner weak and sickly. The only way to rid oneself of a Lidérc is to command it to do an impossible task. Once the creature realizes it cannot complete the task, it will detach itself from its owner, shapeshift back into a bird, and then fly away. A free Lidérc, though, is still very dangerous. Once free, a Lidérc is able to light its form in flame. They're said to fly into homes, bringing sickness to its inhabitants, or lighting the homes on fire. They also shapeshift into humans who leave horse footprints and seduce people by taking on the form of a dead lover or relative. The Popobawa is an evil shapeshifter that inhabits the island of Pemba off the coast of Tanzania. While the Popobawa shifts into many forms, ranging from human to animal, its favorite form is a half-man, half-bat-like creature with a single eye. One can easily identify the transformed Popobawa because he heavily smells of sulfur in all of his forms. Legend has it that the Popobawa is an extremely cruel and fame-seeking creature. At night, the Popobawa will transform into his man-bat form and attack entire families, assaulting every man, woman, and child. When he feels especially cruel, he will sodomize the men and women, and then warn them that he will be back for more if they don't spread the word about what he has done to them. The Popobawa then leaves the house and goes on to the next one. As well as being able to shapeshift, the Popobawa is able to possess humans and speak through them, as well as paralyze his victims if they stare long enough into his eye. One has to be careful when choosing not to believe in the Popobawa, since he takes personal offense to people who don't believe in him and attacks them with great passion. Asmodeus is one of the seven princes of hell and is the demon of lust. His role in many stories and legends involve him spreading the sin of lust throughout the land. The most famous legend involving Asmodeus happens within the Book of Tobit. In the book, Asmodeus falls in love with a woman named Sarah. So in love with the woman, Asmodeus kills her newlywed husband before they can consummate the marriage. Asmodeus does this 7 times to Sarah, causing her to lose hope after the death of her 7th husband. Luckily for her, her 8th husband, Tobias, is instructed on how to put a stop to Asmodeus by the archangel Raphael. So, on their wedding night, Tobias places a fish heart and liver over red-hot cinders, which produces a horrible smell. When Asmodeus comes to kill Tobias, he smells the horrible scent and flees right into a binding trap set up by Raphael. In other works, he is said to be one of the demons that is summoned by King Solomon to construct the temple. In another, he is said to be a child of a succubus and King David. Selkolla is a beautiful woman with the head of a seal from Icelandic folklore. According to the legend, Selkolla once was a normal baby girl who one day was being carried to be baptized by her parents. On the journey to the church, her parents stopped and laid her next to a rock. They then went off to have sex. When they returned, they found that their daughter was black, hideous, and dead. Thinking that she had passed in the cold, they left to return home, but suddenly stopped when they heard her cry. Not wanting to touch the hideous child, the parents went to gather more people from the farms in the area. But when they returned, the child was gone. Years later, a woman with a seal head appears in the farmlands and begins to assault the men in the area. She begins to kill the wives of the farmers and then forcibly sleeps with the men until they die of an unexplained sickness. Eventually, a man named Gudmundr arrives and banishes Selkolla from the farmlands. The Erotes are a group of spirits/gods from Greek mythology who are each associated with a form of sexual desire or love. When they're not accompanying and helping Aphrodite, the goddess of love and desire, the Erotes are said to be of a mischievous sort, pulling pranks on those seeking love. In general, there are said to be 7 or 8 members of the Erotes. The first is Eros, also known by Cupid, his Roman name. Eros represents pure desire. In Greek mythology, there are 2 beings known as Eros. The first is the primordial personification of love, who causes the other primordial deities to start having children. The second Eros is the son of Aphrodite and Ares, and is famously known to induce love by shooting mortals with his arrows. The second member of the Erotes is Anteros, who is connected to requited love. He punishes those who hate love and avenges those whose love isn't returned. The third member is Hedilogos, who represents flattery and sweet-talking. The fourth Erotes is Hermaphroditus, who represents hermaphrodites and feminine men. He once was a beautiful young man until he was tackled by a fanatical nymph, who prayed to the gods that she never wanted to be separated from Hermaphroditus. The gods answered her prayer by intertwining the two into one being, a being who is both female and male. The fifth Erotes is Himero, who represents sexual desire. The sixth is Hymenaeus, who represents marriage ceremonies. If Hymenaeus didn't appear at a wedding, then that marriage would end in a disaster. The seventh Erotes is Pothos, who represents longing and yearning. And sometimes an eighth member of the Erotes is Phonos, who represents romantic envy and jealousy. He loves provoking others and watching the end result. In Malaysian mythology, the Orang Minyak, or Oily Man, is a woman kidnapping creature said to be covered from head to toe in a thick, oily substance said to emit an otherworldly gleam. According to legend, the Oily Man possesses otherworldly abilities, such as supernatural agility and stealth, as well as the ability to walk and climb on any surface. These abilities allow it to slip in and out of inescapable situations, and its oily exterior is said to make it nearly impossible to catch or hold on to, granting it an unmatched advantage when attempting to evade capture. The creature is only known to come out at night in search of satisfying its lust by raping any virgin woman that crosses its path. Luckily, the Oily Man has some weaknesses. The first is rain, which will wash away the oily substance on his body, rendering him catchable. The second is sweaty clothes. Young women should borrow sweaty male clothing and wear them when walking out at night or in their sleep. This is said to confuse the Oily Man into thinking that his victim is no longer a virgin. According to the legends and folklore of the Amazon river dolphins have the ability to change from dolphin into human and then back again. Known as Encantado or Boto, the mysterious dolphin shapeshifters are famous for enchanting men and women with their great beauty and musical talents. The Encantados are said to make their home in the Encante, a kingdom which is either hidden somewhere underwater or is an invisible island floating up and down the Amazon River. The Encante is said to be a place where festivals never end. Food as far as the eye can see, endless comfort, party after party, and numerous dancing mystical creatures such as the Encantados. But apparently, all that comfort and partying becomes stale, which is why the Encantados love leaving the Encante to the human world. Usually coming out at night, an Encantado will find a human fiesta and swim towards it. The Encantado will then take some of the surrounding river brush or animals, such as leaves and fish, and transform them into clothes. For male Encantados, they'll wear a fancy white suit with nice shiny shoes, while the female Encantados will wear a frilly white dress. They'll then shift into their human form, which has been described as beautiful with pale skin and blonde hair. The last thing to complete the transformation is a hat that covers the blowhole that sits on top of their human head. The Encantado will then join the party, flirting, dancing, and playing music to impress the crowd. But as the party keeps going, some people usually become suspicious of the Encantado. They'll ask the Encantado to remove their hat, but the Encantado will refuse, not wanting people to see their blowhole. This will cause even more suspicion until finally the Encantado has no choice but to run back to the river, quickly transforming back into its dolphin form. Sometimes, though, no one will be the wiser, allowing the Encantado to seduce a young woman and impregnate her. Their future child will be pale-skinned and sometimes have flippers or a blowhole. Eventually, though, the Encantado will come for its child and whisk them away to the Encante, never to be seen again by the mother. Another legend of the Amazon says that if you look a river dolphin in its eyes, it will bring you a lifetime of nightmares. This connects with the Encantado's ability to curse or enchant humans. Curses include horrible nightmares, sickness, or even eventual death, while the enchantments can lead to lust and trance-like states. Kurupi is one of the 7 legendary monsters from the mythology of the Guarani people in South America. Kurupi is described as a short, ugly humanoid creature covered with hair, but what makes Kurupi truly unique is his phallus, which is so large that he has to tie it around his waist like a belt in order to properly walk. Due to this, he is thought to be a creature of sexuality and fertility in Guarani mythology. While Kurupi is said to make his home in the forests, every now and then he travels into villages in order to impregnate sleeping women. Because of his large phallus, Kurupi is able to impregnate women without entering their homes by stretching and extending it under doors and through windows. There have also been reports of Kurupi kidnapping women, taking them to his home in the forest, never to be seen again. The children of Kurupi often take on the traits of their father, including his ugliness, short height, hairiness, and in the case of his sons, a high sex drive. While Kurupi does have a ravenous sexual hunger, he is more often used as an excuse by single women or wives who have an unexpected pregnancy or a child that doesn't resemble their husband. And that's a wrap for today's adventure, fellow myth seekers. We hope you enjoyed our video today on the monsters connected to love and lust. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. And with that, we'll see you next time on Wild Mythology.